Welcome back, everyone, to NeuroAlchemy, a NeuroSynergy podcast, where science meets soul and where healing is understood as a multidimensional journey back to yourself. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Young. Here on NeuroAlchemy, we move slowly and intentionally. We define every term as if you're hearing it for the very first time, because clarity creates safety, and safety opens the door for deeper healing opportunities. Today's conversation centers on emotional healing, inner safety, and energy reclamation. If you identify as sensitive, high achieving, or deeply responsible for others, this conversation may feel familiar. You're invited to listen gently, pause if needed. Nothing here requires fixing or effort. Take a breath. You're welcome exactly as you are. Today, I'm joined by Courtney Osselaer, and I want to offer her a very warm welcome to NeuroAlchemy. Courtney is a guide and coach who supports high achieving, spiritually aware mothers and reclaiming their energy, breaking cycles of overgiving, and reconnecting with their authentic selves. Her work is shaped by profound lived experience. After discovering a rare genetic mutation, Courtney made the courageous, proactive decision to have her entire stomach removed. While the physical healing was significant, it was the emotional unraveling that followed that truly reshaped her life. Through nervous system regulation, inner child healing, and emotional reset work, Courtney now helps women move out of survival mode and into clarity, connection, and deep inner safety. Courtney, we are so glad to have you here. Welcome to NeuroAlchemy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Young. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Before we move further into our conversation, I'd like to begin by helping us both arrive. How are you arriving today, physically, emotionally, mentally, or energetically?
I love that you do this, by the way, at the beginning of each thing because it really helps bring us each into this space wherever we are, right? I'm feeling, to be completely honest, I am feeling a little bit out of sorts physically. You had mentioned that I had my stomach removed and I've been having some issues with blood sugar. And so this morning I'm just kind of like teetering and listening and figuring out what the heck is going on with me. That's where I'm at.
Thank you for naming that. There's no right way to arrive here. However, you're showing up today is enough, and we are so happy to have you. Before we move into your story, I'd love to help orient our listeners by defining a few key ideas that we'll be returning to throughout the show today. Courtney, you often speak about overfunctioning. How do you define that, and how does it show up emotionally or energetically?
Yeah. So over functioning is, people pleasing and saying yes when you really want to say no and feeling like you have to be on all the time and go, go, go. And it's really hard for you to slow down and be in the present moment. And you're always thinking it's hard for you to connect too. It's hard for you to make connections, like really connect with maybe your spouse or your kids or a friend or loved one because you're so in your mind of the things that need to be happening and the things that you need to get done. So that's how I would define overfunctioning. And it shows up just like all those things. It shows up as not being present, feeling like you have a million things going through your head all the time. Sometimes it even looks like you feel like you're running around with the chicken with your head cut off at your house, wherever, when you're running from one room to do something, you get there, you forget what you went there to do. So then you see the next thing, you're like, I'm going to go there. And I mean, that showed up for my life as a young mom often, and by the end of the day, you're physically exhausted, you're emotionally exhausted, you're spiritually exhausted, and you feel like you literally got nothing done.
It's such an unhealthy way that we function just regularly. What you're describing, it's most of the population, right? Especially in the United States, as this is just kind of where people are at. And I love that you are opening up that invitation and opportunity that it doesn't have to be that way. You also work a lot with inner child healing. What does that mean in a grounded, practical sense for someone who may feel unsure about that language?
Yeah. So when I think about inner child healing, you've probably heard of like your inner child. You might have heard these terms before. And I like to describe it. Our inner children are a past version of ourselves that are there keeping us safe. And they show up when they're not getting their needs met, right? So they like to get loud and they like to scream at us when they're not getting their needs met. And what I mean by that is I actually often compare them to like a real life like a real life child. Like if you have a tantruming toddler, you're not going to shove them in a room by themselves. Well, at least I hope you're not going to shove them in a room by themselves and tell them to figure it out. You're going to get down on their level. You're going to see, are they hungry? Are they tired? Do they need a drink? Do they need a nap? Do they need a snuggle? Like you're going to get down on their level and really figure out what it is they need. And our inner children are the same exact way. And they often just need some love and some attention and some compassion and presence from us as our adult selves, from our higher self. They often just need that. So that's what the healing part looks like, right? It's figuring out, and it comes from a somatic perspective too, right? Of where are they living in your body? What are they trying to tell you? What do they need? And giving them exactly what that is they need. That comes from going inward and listening and paying attention. And when we can do that, when we can give them that presence and that compassion, they settle down just like a toddler does in real life. They settle down, they are calm, they don't scream at you and get in the way. And the way they scream at you, by the way, is often through triggers. So when you are reactive to certain things in your life, knee jerk reactions, you yell at your kids, you slam the door, you're yelling at the guy in the traffic, like those are all things triggering us and there's a reason for that. And that's your inner child often is your inner child trying to communicate something to you and something that is ready to be worked on or looked at and worked through.
And finally, you talk about emotional reset work. What is that? And why is awareness alone often not enough for real change?
Yeah. So when it comes to emotional reset work, it's about honoring your emotions exactly as they are. And I love you do it so beautifully at the beginning of each episode of just like being there in the moment, recognizing what it is. It goes hand in hand with the inner child work of being present, acknowledging, allowing, feeling so that it can go through your body instead of getting stuck in your body. I forgot the second question that you asked because my brain is naturally going there, but it's not like remembering what you said.
It's okay. It's just where we're talking about emotional reset work, what it is, and why awareness alone maybe isn't enough for real change.
Yeah, awareness is huge, right? We can't change anything. We can't do anything unless we're aware of whatever it is that we're aware of or not aware of. So that is a huge piece of the puzzle. However, just being aware, it's going to get you some progress in your healing, but there's going to be next steps that require a little bit more than awareness. Hell, if the whole planet could just be more aware, I'd be happy, right? We'd have so much more like higher vibration and there'd be so much more progress being made. So, not to say that awareness isn't enough. It's not what that's about. It's about if you're really wanting to dive into your healing process and honoring your emotions and trusting your emotions, it's going to take more than awareness. You need to take some next steps there.
I agree. I think awareness, you have to have that. It's like the foundation of a house being built, right? So without that, we don't have anything. But only with that, all we have is that foundation. We don't have the rest of the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for slowing that down. That context absolutely matters. You've shared that having your entire stomach removed was a profound medical journey, but that the emotional unraveling afterward was even more transformative. Without going into details that feel unnecessary, what did that period reveal about your patterns, your identity, or the way you had learned to survive?
I love this question so much. So, with getting my stomach removed, obviously a lot changed physically, right? I had to relearn how to eat and change my habits as far as that goes. But what it really did was allowed me to recognize how I wasn't taking care of myself before I had my stomach removed, right? I had to get back to the basics of self care, meaning I had to really focus on my eating. I had to really focus on my hydration. I had to really focus on my rest and like what my body is actually physically needing. And then with that came the emotional side of things. I had some complications with it. I was in and out of the operating room and in and out of the emergency room for the first couple of years. And through that came an emotional awakening that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. But it was the deepest, darkest time of my life because of all the physical complications that I was going through. And I didn't want to live that way, right? I did not want to live in and out of the operating room, in and out of the emergency room, and I was not accepting of it at all. And I was just having a conversation earlier about like radical acceptance and how important that is in our healing, but like at that point in my life there was no acceptance. It was this is not okay. And I went into a deep dark hole of despair and depression, and in that place, I was shown that how I was living my life was not the way I was meant to be living my life, and that there was a whole new way for me. So I was a pediatric nurse at the time working in the hospital. And at that moment, when I had this realization, it was like, you don't belong there anymore. Like, you need to do something different. So I started that process. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my personal journey through that, because I started a business and then I found out that like our emotional body is so connected to our physical body, our spiritual body, and how incredibly important it is to care for that part of ourselves as well. As I'm navigating the physical part, right? Then I'm like recognizing, oh, the emotional part needs just as much, if not more attention and work. So going through all of that really helped me open my eyes to how my body had been communicating things to me my entire life that I wasn't willing or able to pay attention to. And what it unraveled was some childhood trauma that I wasn't even aware of. I had been suppressing it, repressing it, really. I wasn't even aware of it for 4 decades. And to have that unravel at it just all happens exactly as it's meant to, right? Like, just the beauty of that in hindsight is so incredibly cool to see. Realizing I had childhood trauma that was actually, I had been feeling like there was something in my life that I was just meeting a wall, and that I couldn't break through this wall. And my therapist had actually recommended I go do EMDR, so I went through a 4-day intensive of that, and that's where all this childhood trauma memory came up. And yes, that face that you're giving, like, "Oh my gosh, incredibly crazy," right? So I had gone into those sessions thinking EMDR is the answer. It's gonna fix me. I'm gonna be like an incredibly new person at the end of this. It's gonna be amazing, right? And then to find out like that was just the start of my journey. It was literally the very beginning. And so that was 2 years ago now, and I'm still unwinding, still unraveling. But the coolest part is that now I can say again in hindsight that when you're in the middle of the crap of healing, the ugly, the not fun, the hard, that part, when you can get to a point where you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, you're feeling the freedom and the liberation that that work has given you, it just makes you want more. Like, you're just ready to keep moving forward and keep that ball rolling so that you can continue to strive to be the better version of yourself always, right? And it's opened up like a whole new realm of spirituality for me and the energy body now. Like, okay, physical, emotional. Now I'm in this soul realm of like what's going on energetically. It's so incredibly fascinating, liberating, and to watch other people go through it is just as exciting.
Yes, I love that because we are all, if we allow ourselves to be, we are all the phoenix rising, all of us. We choose into that. You work with women who are capable, intelligent, and deeply caring, yet they're often exhausted. From your perspective, what are the earliest signs that someone is operating from that over functioning rather than connection or safety?
Ooh, one of the earliest signs, because I think those often get overlooked and then we get to this point of pure exhaustion. And I think the early signs are so subtle that you have to be aware enough and slow enough and deliberate enough to even pay attention to them. I still find it hard to pay attention to those early signs, but it's really anything that your body is communicating to you. So if you feel a resistance to something, or you feel like you're tired and you are resisting a nap, like your body is clearly tired, go take a nap. Or hunger, right? Like it always goes back to the basics of what does your body need? And it's often food, water, rest, connection. Those are like our physical needs, right? And so what does that look like for you? Every person is so individually different. What does hunger feel like to you? And often when we get to the point of hunger, of actually feeling hungry, you've actually gone past the point of like actually listening to the early signs, if that makes any sense at all. But the big one that I think that most people can relate to, and I wouldn't consider it an early sign, I think it's actually more of a later sign, but being triggered and recognizing when you're being triggered, what's triggering you, right? If you catch yourself as a mom, I can relate to this, and I think a lot of people can, not just moms, but if you are reacting to somebody that you love in a way that you don't feel proud of, that's a sign that it's time to like slow down, take a minute, figure out what triggers aren't doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It actually means that you're trying to learn something. You're ready to learn something, ready to embody something. And when you listen to that, it's going to lead you in the exact path that you need to go on your healing journey. So if you're feeling like you're yelling at your kids and you feel incredibly guilty afterward, because we've all done that, and you're feeling incredibly guilty afterwards, that's your signal. That guilt is the signal of, okay, what's going on here? How can I learn from this? What is it trying to teach me? What is the actual underlying need that's not being met in this situation that's causing me to be triggered, right? Yeah. I could keep going on and on and on for this. So,
How does emotional suppression become normalized in high achieving environments?
ooh, high achieving environments, we are taught that production is the most important and we need to be productive. And that's not even in high achieving environments. That's in society in general, right? Everybody is expected to overperform and overproduce. And what they're missing, the people who are expecting that, what they're missing is that we're actually more productive when we take care of ourselves on an emotional level and an energetic level. And when people are already waking up to that, which I think is so incredibly cool. It's so incredible to witness. But the more we can grab a hold of that and stay true to that, our world is going to be different, a different place. So it shows up as just expecting more than the person can actually give, right? And I think each person is so incredibly different. I don't know, Dr. Sarah, if you're familiar with human design. I think you probably are.
Yeah.
But we're all different. We're not all meant to do the same thing every day and all compared to each other. Like, no, like let's honor people where they are. Let's let them play into their strengths. And if they want to work on their weaknesses, if that's what you want to call them, go for it. But like let's really honor what people are good at and where they shine and where they're just like being so I'm losing all my thoughts. See, I feel like this blood sugar thing is like creeping in again. Yeah.
Courtney, please feel free to take care of yourself. This is a safe space. If you need to stop or you need to go grab something,
I'm just
please
gonna
take
go.
care of yourself.
I appreciate
Okay.
you.
Absolutely. One of your core teachings is that emotional triggers are teachers, not problems. That can be a big shift for people. How can someone begin to move from reacting automatically to actually listening to what a trigger is communicating?
So it's a process, right? Oftentimes we aren't able in the very beginning of this process, it's very difficult to recognize when you're being triggered in the moment because your nervous system just takes over and you just go and you do your thing. So the first step is often after the fact, reflecting on what just happened. When you're in a place where you're calm and you're grounded, you can look back on that situation and just process through it of like, okay, this is what happened. This is how I reacted. This is how I felt after I reacted. And then the next time you have that same situation, quote unquote, you're going to enter it and you're going to be able to recognize sooner what's happening, right? So when we can practice outside of those moments that we're getting triggered of reflection on the day, on the moment, on the whatever the case is happening, that's where it really starts. The trajectory starts of the ball rolling of being able to recognize in the moment. Eventually, you get to the point where you can recognize in the moment what's happening and you can decide what to do from there and take the next best step. Maybe that's walking away, maybe that's communicating how you're feeling, maybe that's just simply allowing the situation to happen and taking a breath in the moment. There's lots of different ways to go about doing it, but that the very first is reflecting on when you're getting triggered.
How does self trust develop through that process?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't think I've ever actually put words to that. And what happens in that process, I'm going to kind of like riff on this as I'm going to think out loud here. So what happens in that process is you are learning to like listen to your body. So when you're reflecting, you're looking back and being like, "Oh, this is what happened," and you're able to recognize somatically. I talk a lot about somatics and how important it is to feel what's going on in your body. Because your body knows before your brain knows always. And so when you reflect on what was actually going on internally with my body in that situation, the next time you're in that situation, you're going to be able to feel it and recognize it. Your brain's going to be like, "Ah, that's what happened." So then you're training your brain to listen to your body, right? You're training yourself to actually understand what's going on somatically, and that in and of itself is self-trust. It's just this muscle that's being built over time. Ooh, that feels good.
That was good. I love that. That's perfect. Inner child dynamics shape so much of adult life. How do you help women recognize when childhood wounds are influencing their current relationships, boundaries, or energy levels?
Yeah. So let's talk about childhood wounds from the perspective of conditioning, right? So every experience that we have current day and how we react to those experiences are based on our conditioning, whether it's from childhood or adulthood or wherever in your life it's happened. When I sit with women and we're talking about the experiences that they're having and how they're reacting to things, we go through, and it's not even a process that I can name. It's very intuitively led for me of being able to recognize what's happening there and asking them maybe when the first time they felt that way on a somatic level, right? Getting them to tap into what's going on in their bodies when they're reacting current day and if they can recall when that very first time was that they felt that way. And then we're able to kind of go back to that place and spend some time with that and provide healing. And I have to say that it's not a one-time thing, right? We might be able to recognize it in session, but then the real work comes when you visit that over and over and over again. Not like this monotonous process, but like anytime you feel the need to go back there, you go back there and you spend time with that little girl, that little boy, and just be with them. And then as you incorporate that, the more you do that, it's just like exercise, right? If you go to run a marathon, you can't just go run a marathon. You have to train for it. And that inner child work that you're doing is the training for the current day time that you're reacting the way that you don't want to be reacting.
What changes when those patterns are met with compassion instead of judgment?
Your whole system changes. You're able to sit with, you're able to relax into, you're able to be present in the moment. This is what I think moms want most of all because it changes your energy. You had asked that earlier of like, how does it shift your energy? When we're able to do that work and come to this place of being present in the moment and being so incredibly grounded and secure and safe in our bodies, the energy part just comes along with it, right? We're not wasting energy and mind power, if that's what you want to call it, on all this other crap. It's like just not there. You just don't pay attention to the mind chatter. You don't pay attention to this emotional overwhelm because it's just not there.
You've named that awareness alone isn't enough for transformation. Why does the nervous system need more than insight to truly feel safe and reorganized?
Yeah. If anybody's read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, this can, like, you can really go in depth in this. Our body is incredibly good at holding on to past experiences to keep us safe. That's the whole purpose of our nervous system is to keep us safe. And just knowing the knowledge is not going to actually allow you to embody the change and the neuro synapse change within yourself. So that's why the embodiment part is so key. And I mean, I don't know about you, but before I really went hardcore my healing journey, I'd read all the books. I'd read all the books and I'd be like, why is it still not working? Why am I not changing? Why am I not da da? Da? It's because you're not embodying it. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it, it's not going to change much.
Who tends to benefit most from emotional reset work?
I think every single human on the planet can benefit from this. But in my world, mamas, mothers, we need all of that to this is why I'm so passionate about it because kids, everybody on the planet deserves this, but kids especially, if we're going to change the vibration of the world, the kids need to feel seen and loved and heard and valued coming from a person who had a lot of childhood trauma and repressed that for so long. But I can honestly say that I didn't feel those things growing up, right? I was dismissed. I was abused. I was all of these things. And so if again, this is like high hopes. This is like my world peace person in me. But like, if every kid on the planet could feel those things, loved, seen, heard, valued, think about the world we would live in. We would be bringing up a generation of people who are compassionate, who are willing to listen to each other despite our differences, despite our difference in opinions. They would be called to help people, right? They'd be so taken care of and so grounded in themselves and confident that they are willing to reach out a helping hand, no matter who it is and what's going on, because they have that love expanding from their hearts. Hmm. Moms. That's who it's for because moms impact the kids the most.
And now I would love for you to help me with this next bit. For our listeners, we always offer a gentle neuroalchemy challenge. So if you had one simple practical practice that you would like them to practice daily over the next week, what would you recommend?
Yeah, very on theme here with triggers, but I would recommend setting aside 5 minutes of your day, particularly probably at the end of the day if you can, and reflecting on what it is that triggered you throughout the day and just noticing it, naming it. Notice what it was that triggered you. Notice how you reacted. Notice what was going on in your body at the time. Like, what is that somatic response? Were you feeling heat coming out of your ears? Were you feeling tightness in your throat or a gut wrench feeling or, whatever it was that was coming up for you? Just simply notice that. Because, like we talked about earlier, awareness is that very first step.
So, that is our challenge for the week for everyone out there. If you notice yourself feeling triggered, we would love for you to take this invitation to really tune into the way your body is communicating with you. And Courtney, as we begin to close, what do you hope listeners walk away with after hearing our conversation today?
Yeah, I hope that you guys walk away with feeling validated, feeling less alone, less broken, because I truly believe that you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. It's a matter of being overburdened, overwhelmed, living by conditioning, and like unwinding that. So I hope that you feel validated and seen.
Thank you. Courtney, thank you for your honesty, your depth, and your reminder that healing doesn't require doing more. For our listeners, remember this healing is not about perfection, it's about returning to yourself one gentle moment at a time. If something that you heard today could help a friend, a family member, or a colleague, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this episode. That is truly how we get these conversations into the places where they really to be. Until next time, this is Dr. Sarah, and this is NeuroAlchemy. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are becoming. Bye for now.